Para bakit manok? Kasi sobrang-sobra yung manok natin, supply natin, inventaryo natin ay mataas. So we have to prop up the industry para hindi malugi yung mga nagmamanok. Ganon din sa palay, itong wet season harvest ay gusto rin natin ma-maintain yung palay prices near the farm gate price. At so dapat lalabas yung present stocks para bibili yung mga traders and millers and the LGUs. And so we are creating a market, and so to maintain also good palay prices. Okay, so ganun po ang strategy po natin. At sana magwagi po tayo at tayo ay mapalad mulit na with all this stimulus investment this last quarter of the year will end up growing the sector. So sana hindi tayo negative. We are targeting still 1.5% growth average for 2020, but we have been challenged by Secretary Dominguez to continue aspiring for a 2% growth for this year average. Okay. Next slide. Ito ngayon yung mga food systems policy shifts. I have said this before na hindi lang production ang titingnan natin, nasa value chain. Hindi lang number one also is to increase food sufficiency levels. So meaning we have to support yung commodity industries muna. Yung importation is a last resort strategy. So doon sa pangalawa sa kanan ay ito yung value chain system, empowering marginalized sector, and good logistics. Dito sa pangatlo ay building resilience. So we need to see the synergy between and among sectors of the economy. Then pangapat ay addressing hunger and all forms of malnutrition. So hindi lang volume but quality also. And we will, those stimulus package I have mentioned earlier, ay isosustain natin for the next 2021 budget. Okay. So dito, biosecurity is also elevated and contextualizing specific policies. Of course, recognizing both differences and similarities and synergies. Next. Alam natin, ito lang yung datos sa mga micro, small, medium enterprises in agriculture. Wala pang 1%. So, with the institutionalizing of agribusiness, we hope to increase the number or percentages for more enterprises to be engaged in the agriculture. Also, this is a basic approach to inclusive agribusiness. Ito na basubok na natin doon when I was in India managing ICRISAT. So dito titignan mo na there are subsistence farmers that must be transformed towards market-oriented agriculture through value chain approach. And your engine of growth is technology or innovation. So, two things to consider on the right side would be market as the driver. When you don't have market, do not produce, simple as that. Then management, because agriculture is risky, you need to manage risk. Early on, you have to have safety nets and give continuing development assistance while building the resiliency. So ganun po ka-importansya itong framework na ito, itong approach na ito. Apat na principles: inclusiveness, innovation, accelerating growth, markets expands profitability, and resiliency sustains rural development. Now, what are the support loan programs that we are implementing? We have the Expanded Shore Aid and Recovery Project. Ito ay nasagaan ng ACPC 2020. Loanable amount, zero interest, payable in 5 years. Also to marginalize small farmers and fishers, 25,000 amount of loan, zero interest, no collateral, and payable up to 10 years. Ito rin, another program for agribusiness, micro agronegosyo, up to 300,000, loanable amount, zero interest. Depends on the cash flow of the project, but not to exceed 5 years. Then the level of a small agri-negosyo from 300,000 to 15 million loanable amount, zero interest rate, and payable in 5 years. Now for the younger agripreneurs, we call it KAYA, Support Loan Program, Capital Access for Young Agripreneurs. An individual can borrow 500,000 with zero interest and payable in 5 years. Now, next one, Maya is mentoring and attracting youth in agribusiness. We are almost to start this. We are funding this from the Bayanihan Part 2. We will bring in almost 1,000 young graduates. We will have them as on-the-job trainees or internship, 6 months. Every month they will be getting 20,000 pesos as allowance. Now, 2 tracks. One track would be for them if interested to join the government, the agriculture sector, we will hire them. If not, if they want to do their own agribusiness, we will give them loan support. So ganun po ang preparation for these young peoples. Business incubation, ganun din, yung lahat ng young generation, including the old, having ideas in their minds. If they wanted to translate their ideas into proof of concept, why not? So we'll have this to support startup. Okay. And even after them having the proof of concept, if they want to commercialize, then the loan program can work for them. One of the newer ideas that we are institutionalizing, and we will start with an agro-industrial business corridor in the new Clark City. And so this is part of the whole strategy of government to disperse agri-based industries to the regions, to entice the private sector to invest, and allow the integration of the smallholder farmers with the whole concept of a business corridor. So there is a hub and spokes model. So Clark City will be the hub, and the spokes will be the various production areas and or say trading centers in that case. So this is starting this year, and another agribusiness corridor would be part of Taguig, where it is tied up with the Laguna Lake, because we wanted that area to also easily connect with Metro Manila, accessing it because of the fish the production that's happening in Laguna and the Bay. Now, this idea of digitalization, I will run a video of 2 minutes for you to appreciate our roadmap. It's already here. And
Ayun ko sila.
Wag na ito. Dapat okay, so palagi ko nire-recite po ito. This is my last slide. Magpakatatag tayo, yun po ang title. Kahit anong mangyari, babangon ng Pilipinas, huwag tayo susuko sa pandemya, lalaban tayo, labanan natin ito. Sa sektor ng agrikultura, ipaglaban natin ang pagtatanim at pangingisda para maging masagana ang ating ani at tataas na rin ang kanilang kita. May pag-asa pa na babangon ang ating bansa, may pag-asa na babangon ang ating ekonomiya, may pag-asa na babangon muli ang agrikultura at maiangat ang buhay ng ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Together, we act, win, heal, and rise as one. Marami pong salamat.
Thank you, Secretary Dar, for the very comprehensive presentation, and thank you very much for ending your, your presentation with a very optimistic message to all the Filipinos people. Now, may I turn the microphone to Mr. Conrad so that he can introduce the other speakers in this webinar. Conrad, please. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you very much, Fermin. And thank you very much, Dr. Dar, for that very comprehensive and interesting presentation. Be sure to stick around with us, because I am very sure a lot of our viewers will have very interesting questions for you. And speaking of becoming very interesting, our next three speakers are quite tech-oriented. And the first one, nakabase sa probinsya mga to, and they are the silent workers of agriculture, they belong to the organization called the Philippine Society of Agricultural and Biosystems Engineers, or PISABE. This organization traces its roots to the Philippine Society of Agricultural Engineers. I think that's mga 1960s pa sila. And currently, the organization is headed by Engineer Dennis Taktak, who is also an ASEAN engineer, or he is one of the growing number of engineers in the Philippines who are licensed to also, mag-practice ng kanilang profession in the ASEAN region. And his presentation will also be about, I think, fourth industrial technologies. So, Mr. Dennis Taktak, the floor is yours now.
Anyway, thank you. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, Mr. Secretary ng Department of Agriculture at sa bumubuo po ng Manila Times. Maraming salamat po sa pag-invite sa aming society para po i-present ang aming organisasyon sa ganito pong sitwasyon. First, briefly, i-present ko po kung ano po yung ginagawa ng aming society dito sa ating country. So, next slide. So, basically, Philippine Society of Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers Incorporated is a non-profit and non-stock organization duly registered at the Securities Exchange Commission. So, ito po rin pa ay accredited po ng Professional Regulation Commission at accredited siya ng Integrated Professional Organization. So right now we have active members, 10,000 more or less, practicing the agriculture and biosystems profession. So ito po yung aming organizational structure. So we have 11 voting members, and sa po dito ang aming advisor, yung aming immediate past president. Supposed to be, we have our election last April, kaya lang po dahil po sa pandemic ay hindi po natuloy yung aming annual national convention. So, extended po kami, hold over capacity po ang aming position ngayon. So, sa ating organization din, meron din kami mga kasamahan sa yung young engineer section. Ito po yung mga fresh graduate up to say 30, ganun. Sila po yung mga kasama namin. And yung pre-professional group, ito po yung mga estudyante po na kumukuha po ng Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers sa mga state colleges and universities. Next slide. So, aside ho sa national chapters namin, ay meron din ho kaming mga regional chapters all over the country, from car to farm. At sila po yung mga katuwang namin na nag-disseminate kung ano po yung mga technology or informations po na nadidevelop po ng ating mga researchers sa mga research institution. Na sila rin po ang mga minobilize po ng organization para iparating ho sa ating mga farmers kung ano ho yung mga appropriate technology and uh, technology and yung mga gamit po sa ating mga pasakahan at mga pangingisda. So, most of them po ay mga active po na officers na lagi po namin nakaka-coordinate, lalo na po sa Department of Agriculture. Next po. So, ito naman po yung ating mga partner agencies and organization. Of course, dito po ang ating Department of Agriculture kung saan ho ito ho yung aming mga pinagkukuhanan ho ng mga information at saka technology. Dito rin po kami in-impart ang aming mga expertise para ho makarating po sa ating mga magsasaka. Andiyan po rin po ang Professional Regulation Commission, ang DOLE at TESDA, ang PFPA, ang CIGR, at may mga partner organizations din po tayo from the other countries like the Malaysian Society of Agricultural Engineers and the American Society of Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers. Next po. So ito po yung mga programs po and activities po ng aming society. So annually, we conduct the PSABE Annual National Convention. So as you can see, dun sa ating photo, before po maging secretary si Dr. Dar, ay siya po yung aming naging keynote speaker na nag-discuss po kung ano po yung Agriculture 4.0. This was held in Bacolod City last year. So during the activity, may mga plenary speakers po tayo na nag-impart po ng kanilang mga learnings at saka mga researches conducted na dinidisseminate po natin sa ating mga members sa society. So part po ng aming annual convention ay ini-introduce po natin sa ating may audience po kami dito from LGUs and farmers na ini-introduce po kung ano ho yung mga modern o mga bagong makinarya po na ginagamit ho ngayon or available po sa market na pwede po natin gamitin sa ating sakahan at pangisdaan. Next. So aside po dun sa annual convention, ito rin po yung aming mga activity para ho ma-enhance, makapacitate po ang ating mga fellow Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers para yung pagkandak po ng training sa electrification, yung AFMEC Service Center, Rural Electrification at Machine Designs. Mahalaga po ito para ho yung ating technology po sa ating mga makinarya ay mai-disseminate po natin sa ating mga fellow engineers para maiparating po sa ating mga farmer constituents at saka fisher folks po sa mga rural areas dito po sa ating country. So right now ho, ilan pa lang po yung ating mga learning centers na accredited po ng TESDA para po natin sa pagkandak po ng ating mga trainings with regards to the agriculture and biosystems profession. Next. So we have also a partnership with the Department of Agriculture, TESDA and AMDA. So ito ho yung MOA signing po namin. The MOA was take effect last January 8, 2020. So nandito po yung ating dalawang secretaries, yung Secretary Dar at saka si Secretary La Peña during the MOA signing. So actually, the MOA aims to roll out the existing training regulations on agri-fishery mechanization, which will fast-track the skills development and certification of agri-fishery operators and technicians. It's one of the urgent need in the implementation of the Rice Competitive Enhancement Fund program and other DA Agri-Fishery Mechanization program among others. So alam naman po natin na ang TESDA po ay sila po yung may kapasidad sa pag-handle po ng training, mga national certificate trainings, NC2 and NC3. And of course, the Department of Agriculture, nandyan po ang kanilang programa na RCEP, wherein yearly ay meron po silang nirelease na fund for the enhancement of our agricultural sectors through mechanization, lending, trainings. At ang AMDA naman po, ito po yung grupo ng mga manufacturers, distributors, dealers ng mga agricultural machineries, wherein sila po ay nakapag-import po sa ating bansa ng mga makabagong makinarya na po pwede po nating magamit at ma-improve po ang ating sakahan. And lastly, yung ating pong organization, ang Philippine Society of Agriculture and Biosystem Engineers, nasa amin po ang skills and knowledge and technology when it comes to agricultural and mechanization practice in the Philippines. So, in line with that, meron din nilabas ang ating buting secretary, si Secretary Dar, na yung collaboration to accelerate skills development and certification of agri-fishery machinery operations and technicians and farmers for mechanized farming. So, ito po yung rolling out po ng ilang mga na-develop na po na national certificates, trainings na i-undertake po ng TESDA. So, meron po tayo ditong 6 na NC2, 2 NC3. But for the biogas system at saka yung aquaculture, fishery operations ay for approval pa po ng TESDA. And hopefully, soon ay ma-approve na po yung ating NC2. And another po, meron ding memorandum na nilabas po ang ating USEC, si Ma'am Ching Caballero, instructing the Department of Regional offices and other bureaus na accredit ho yung ating mga research and demonstration centers of field rice and DA regional field offices as training and assessment centers for rice and machinery operations and drying and milling plant services. So alam naman po natin na ilan pa lang po yung mga accredited when it comes to farm machinery operation learning centers ng TESDA. So right now ho ay nagipag-coordinate po ang ating organization, ang PISABE, sa TESDA kung ano ho yung mga kailangan para ho yung ating mga DA stations, research stations ay ma-accredit at maging learning centers po ng farm machinery operations. Next. So, last May, dun sa Farmers Folk Day, nag-award po, nakuha po namin yung accreditation from Department of Agriculture, na-award po ni Secretary Dar, yung aming certificate to be NGO ng Department of Agriculture. So maganda po ito para sa atin dahil we can now access yung programa, pati ho siguro yung resources ng Department of Agriculture na matulungan sila na may pabot po yung mga technology and programs ng departamento sa ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Next. So aside po doon sa mga partnership po, may programa po ang PSABE, yung tawag po na Government Internship Program for Agriculture and Biosystems Engineering Youth. So sa picture po, yun ho sa bandang likod na linya, nandun po yung youth. At dito po sa harap naman ay nandyan po yung mga partners natin sa from PRC, Department of Agriculture, sa BAFE, si Engineer Rico, and yung mga partners po natin from the DOLE. So, ang target beneficiaries po nito ay yung newly graduate Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers. So, purpose po nito ay to augment the ABE and the Department of Agriculture, local government units, and other agencies na nag-implement po ng mga farm mechanization. Okay. So dito po sa aming mga publications, may mga po kami na journals. Dito po nakita ho dito yung mga technologies po na ini-impart po from the research institutions po na nandun po yung ating mga agriculture and biosystems engineers. Sa po dito yung minomodernize po yung mga ibang research po sa farming, like yung paggagamit po ng mga laser guided leveler para po magawa ho natin maigi, papatag po natin at yung tinatawag ko natin na precise farming. Kasi po pagka hindi ho maganda ang patag ng lupa, masyado po marami po tayong mga nasasayang na resources. Other publications po, yung journal po na napublish natin, andyan po yung mga success stories po ng ilang mga agriculture and biosystems engineers. Doon so sa, lalo na po dito sa farm service provider. So, ang gamit po ang mga nutrients po dito, mula ko sa land preparation ay gumagamit na ho ng mga makinarya. Yes, next po. Next slide. So, aside ho doon, meron ho tayong mga civic activities na tumutulong po tayo sa mga nasalanta, gaya na ho ng sa Baguio, at saka mga tree planting activities po para ho ma-protect ho natin yung ating environment. Next slide. So, noong pandemic po, nag-assist po tayo dun sa ating mga kababayan ho na tulungan tungkol doon sa mga protective PPEs na inimpart po natin sa mga hospitals po. Focus po natin dito sa Metro Manila. So yun lang po, and stay safe po. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sir Dennis, and please stick around for the Q&A kasi marami na ang nagpapadala ng questions ngayon, ano? And there are also some questions para sa inyo, no? So please stick around. Now we go to the next speaker. Actually, the next speaker, I don't know if I have to introduce her because she's very popular right now. But I'll just give you a short description of her. She founded Agrea, where she is the president and CEO. And she graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor's degree in agriculture, major in horticultural from the Visayas State University. And she is currently the U.S. ambassador for nutrition. And she's actually all over the place. And let me welcome Ma'am Sherry Atilano. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, good morning po sa lahat. Magandang umaga, maayong buntag sa mga Bisaya nga nagtanaw karon kag maayong agaman sa mga Ilonggo nga gapamati man subong. I actually want to share my screen for my presentation. Thank you so much first to the Manila Times team for inviting me to be part of this conversation on food security through agribusiness and digitalization. And I'm so honored to speak again with, in the webinar with Secretary William Dar. It seems that every 2 weeks I join a webinar with him. And thank you also for all the speakers. I noticed I'm the only rose among the amazing thorns in this conversation. So it's given me a lot of realization that I think we also need to push more women or empower more women in the agriculture sector. Please, happy to know if I'm speaking all right, or can you hear me okay? And someone feedback? So today the topic is about food security through agribusiness and digitalization. So I think my presentation in Agrea is an example on how, these two things are actually working together, and on how we are progressing moving forward as a company. So I just want us to dissect on what's really the current farmer in the Philippines. Who are they? So right now, for the longest years, the current Filipino farmers are poor, aging, The average age of farmers in the Philippines now is 57, or other data says it's 58, and low educational attainment. I had this discussion before with Ched. It's because there's very low educational attainment in farmers, that they say that farmers are educational is actually equivalent to 10-year-old boy in school or grade 4. If you notice the picture I posted, you know, it's a Lola farmer and a little boy with a laptop. So I think this encapsulates what we're trying to do right now, that hopefully agribusiness and digitalization will progress our agriculture moving forward with the inclusion of a lot of young people, being myself included. I always believe in this Polish proverb. It says that when the farmer is poor, so is the whole country. I think that's the reason why the Philippines is poor, because we never really focus on our farmers much. You know, aside from Secretary William Dar, who's such a mentor to me since ICRISAT, which I used to visit before when he was the Director General of ICRISAT, I really saw how the farmers have been given not only, a place on food to table kind of setting, but really giving a farmer a seat on a table in their approach in ICRISAT. So hopefully that one we can bring in the Philippines. I'll give you a little bit of background who we are as a company. Actually, we're a hybrid, we're a social enterprise. So Agria is an innovative, inclusive, and for-purpose agribusiness that is founded on sustainable agriculture, fair trade, and replicable model of an agri-based economy. To give you a background, I'm in agriculture for 22 years now. I started teaching farmers at the age of 12 in Silay City, Negros Occidental, in the middle of a sugarcane field. It's because every weekend I would run and work in the sugarcane fields because I had no friends to play with. Everyone in the farm are working in the sugarcane fields. So at 12, I learned how to plant sugarcane. I learned how to, put fertilizer, play around with the irrigation system. And after that, pag dungis na, go to the river and swim. It was a childhood I really reminisce and enjoy so much, being blessed to have a childhood in a rural community. However, I didn't know it was child labor. My parents, my mom did not push me to go work in the farm, but all my friends were actually pushed by their parents to work in the farm, in the sugarcane farm. So growing up, I have a lot of questions in my head that later on, I really want to be involved in agriculture. I remember when I was 15 years old, I was looking for ways on what to pursue in university. And my mom wanted me to be a doctor. And I left home. I looked for a scholarship. So I'm a scholar of Negros Occidental, Pagkaon, because I really want to go into agriculture. I told my mom, we really need to help our farmers, because when my father died, he said that the face of our farmers in the Philippines is actually equivalent to period and comma. Before he died, he got a plate with rice, salt, and bagoong. He said, this is period. Pag wala silang pera, they'll use their finger, tutusok ka sa asin, and then that's period, and then you eat it with rice. If they have a little bit of money, they can buy bagoong, they can put suka with the bagoong. It's a bit sticky. You make it, comma, and then you eat it with rice. So my father said, if you want to continue the story and help in the farming community, if you're an author, you should not put a period, because that's the end of the sentence. But if you want to continue the work, you put semicolon. And I think I'm here because I decided to put a semicolon. And the rest of my life is really dedicated to the agribusiness sector. So to make the story short, for 22 years, I've been in this sector when young people are not yet into the sector. I was like a lost wolf, running after, some of my friends to go into agriculture, because they said like, Cherry, ang tali-talino mo, bakit ka nag-agrikultura? There's no money in agriculture. If bumagsak ka sa school, ay, doon ka pupulutin ka sa kangkungan. Mga labasa ka na lang or mga matis ka na lang. So I put it in my head that someday, I will really put an image. Why can't we make farming sexy? Why can't we glorify farming? Why can't we glamorize farming? Why can't we make sustainable agribusinesses that will empower our farmers and really make proud of our Filipino farmers? So how do we do that? Agria is such a dream for me. It's a marriage of two words, agriculture and Gaia, Mother Earth or environment. because especially in the Philippines that we have around 20 to 21 typhoons every year, I think environment is the best social security system of our farmers. If we take good care of our environment, we will take good care of our farmers, you know, especially what we're doing right now in, you know, in technologies and precision agriculture. We should not pollute our land and our soil, but with precision agriculture, which is part of digitalization, it's something that we can control that water and soil pollution due to excessive use of pesticides and fertilizers. So how do we begin? In the company, we really want to focus on cultivating human beings. Why is that so? Of course, you know, agriculture is so technical. I studied agriculture, I graduated agriculture, I breathe it every day. But we're always cultivating the soil, cultivating the land. But at the end of the day, we need to humanize agriculture. Humanizing agriculture is cultivating the human beings behind agriculture. I'm not only saying about the food producers, the farmers, and the fisher folks, but also consumers to be part of this change, you know, to really support our farmers locally. So we work on ecology of dignity. This is our company mantra. This is very metaphoric, but this is so true in our mission. Every decision making we do in a company is about how do we put dignity to our farmers? How do we really dignify and respect our farmers? You know, it's beyond increasing their income, but really fulfilling their dreams also as, you know, Filipinos. We focus on agri-base, no bias. I'm in agriculture because I really love agriculture. It's my passion. Agriculture, I guess, is the backbone of our economy, but it seems that we haven't realized that in the Philippines. And we work a lot on fair trade because we believe that paying the farmers what is right and what is due is actually such a strong social rights and justice I always fight for. So what are the vision, mission, and goals of Agria? Most of the agribusiness company, we're talking about agribusiness here. I don't believe in remote control agribusiness company that a lot of people are just, okay, I'm just a hobby farmer. It's okay if you have so much money. But if you really want to build our country in agribusiness, we need to convert hobby farmers to be regular farmers and farmer entrepreneurs. But most of them, they're having a hard time creating their vision, their mission, their goals. That's why they're at a loss. You know, they just end as a hobby farmer. And so in the company, our vision is to create the first one island economy model in the Philippines by 2035. For two reasons. Why one island economy? We have 7,107 islands in the Philippines, and you know, archipelago is such beautiful when you go to beaches, but it's a nightmare when we talk about supply chain and logistics in agriculture. Like this week, we have been flying via Cebu Pacific some goods from Mindanao, and every shipment, it's like giving birth to a child. So what I'm saying is, what if we empower the island in the Philippines that are agricultural to actually be food producers, especially on the commodities that can grow well in their island? So it's even definite 2035. I want it to happen in 2035. So we're now 6 years in our work for this vision, and we're working with two islands, Siargao and Marinduque. And there are 6 more islands in the pipeline signing up. We have Bohol, Cebu, Palawan, Mindoro, Negros Occidental, and also Romblon. So our mission is to alleviate poverty and hunger for farming and fishing communities. In islands we enter, we always study the import and export of the island so that we can actually design what are the programs we can work with farmers and what are the programs we can work with the fishermen in the island. And the goals, zero waste, zero hunger, zero insufficiency. I love to share their goals. Hopefully it can inspire emerging agribusiness people who are watching right now to actually work on this. Zero waste, this is about taking care of our environment. So, for example, in all our rice operation, when the farmers are finished harvesting the rice, they are not allowed to burn the rice straw. They are encouraged to decompose the rice straw so that they can lessen their farm inputs in the next cropping. And second one is zero hunger. I'm not talking about the physical hunger or the hunger of the stomach. I'm talking about the hunger of human being to belong, the hunger of the farmers to have a seat on the table, and the hunger of the consumers to have really good and quality food on their table also. And lastly is about zero insufficiency. This is what I love to do. I love agricultural economics, and I always study the import and export and and we always create a master plan and marketing study in island we enter. So every time we enter an island, we study the import and export of agricultural commodity and start our intervention from that one. So aside from that, we work closely on working on the sustainable development goals because, aside from that, as I mentioned, I'm a United Nations ambassador for global nutrition, which includes, agriculture. So I speak on behalf for the agriculture sector as an ambassador. We work on this sustainable development goals because we only have 10 years left to complete our SDG. And it seems with this pandemic, I don't know if we can actually complete, and fulfill all the targets we set 20 years ago. So just to give you a little bit of background, I'll be showing to you our agribusinesses model, and later on a little bit of digitalization, how we progress for these two models. First is our B2B business. We focus on the one island agri-based economy. So if you see in my presentation, that's the map of our beloved Philippines. And we're working on two islands now massively. So left side of the picture is Marinduque Island Province, island in Surigao del Norte. If you see in the picture, we have a lot of interventions in these two islands. So we do rice farming in Marinduque. And also we have 62.5 hectares of ginger and turmeric production. And also we have a model farm and a farm school. Having a farm school is always necessary in our intervention because it's a way we evangelize our farmers on how they can actually learn agribusiness, sustainable agricultural practices, and more importantly, the right mindset and financial literacy to actually be later on, better farmers. On the right side, we have Siargao. We entered Siargao because of the invitation of the governor and the congressman to enter Siargao. It's because Siargao Island is actually a $1 billion tourism industry. However, even if you're a $1 billion tourism industry, it's not sustainable when your locals are getting hungrier and hungrier every year because the price of food is shooting up and the farmers are leaving their farms because they want to be habal-habal drivers, construction workers to build another hotels and resorts. And the male in the farms are actually, sabi nila, bakit pa ako akyat ng buko or coconut kung 50 pesos lang yung buko. Pag maghabal-habal driver ako sa Siargao, mayroon akong magandang surfer na sumasakay sa likod ng habal-habal, kikita pa ako ng 500 to 1,000 pesos a day. So, totoo nga naman sila, may rason. So, it means we need to put more intervention. So far in Siargao Island, based on our market studies, they need so much food, hopefully after this pandemic and they can resume their operation. We can also resume most of our operations in the island. So we have a vegetable production in the island. We focus on organic because our market's there. We try to work with hotels and resorts. In Siargao, there's 187 hotels and resorts as our market in Siargao Island. There's so much demand on pork. So we are putting a farm of piggery, which is also organic because our market are really leading towards organic. Their tourism there are more required healthy eating and yoga culture and surfing culture. So as an agripreneur, you always need to adapt to what the market is demanding. Sabi nga ni Secretary William Dar, huwag ka nang magtanim pag walang market. You always need to make sure you have a market. And you always to make sure you know the demand of your market. So in Marinduque Island, this is one of the interventions we've been doing, knowing that Marinduque has around 4 million coconut trees as per the Coconut Authority. And they said that when we did our assessment to their farmers, the farmers were actually losing around 20 to 30 coconut trees every typhoon season. So it means during our last interview 3 years ago, the farmers are only earning 3,500 every 45 days. So we actually make two interventions. One is a cocoa sugar production. I need to mention Bose Coffee chain because we supply them with our cocoa sugar from our farming communities. And this is one of the intervention that until now, while I'm speaking, our farmers are actually harvesting turmeric to be shipped in a processor here in Manila. So we focus on climate resilient farming approach. Why is that so? When coconut farmers are second poorest farmers in the Philippines, I think they deserve much attention, right? So what we did, we developed this technology. We're trying to work with Picard on how to make this more scientific so that we can share this knowledge to our farmers all over the Philippines. We plant turmeric and ginger under coconut. So far with the turmeric, we're very successful in terms of climate resiliency. It's because we experienced already El Nino for 10 months. We experienced after El Nino, there's a typhoon. Hindi ka pa nakabangon sa isang phenomenon, and then binagyo ka na naman. But what's good with that, after El Nino, all these turmerics are actually dried up. And I almost cried on the field seeing all our beautiful turmerics drying up. But when the rain comes, all our turmeric again shoot up. We did not plant again. And they shoot up and grow bigger than their first actually cropping. So it's very beautiful for our farmers. And right now, what we're trying to do here is we provide intervention on providing farmers with black pig that can roam around also in their farm, chicken, and they're also encouraged to plant vegetables around their farm vicinity for their source of income. So this is also becoming a farm tourism destination because it's so beautiful, especially when all this turmeric are having flowers. So look at my smile in this picture. I think I just need to share this. It's because a lot of people said, natatakot silang mag-farm kasi, hindi masaya sa farm. I'm telling you, it's been my life for 22 years and I'm the happiest, I guess. I mentioned also our farm school. Why we need farm school in doing agribusiness all over the country. We're so happy that we partner with DA, Agriculture Training Institute, and TESDA for our Agria Farm School. So we have an accredited farm school in Marinduque Island, and this farm school also on our farm is actually a Department of Tourism accredited farm tourism destination. So why do we have a farm school? First, to evangelize people, right, to go into agriculture, what's the best practices, and to also for us to imbibe to them what are the values we want to do in the company and how can these farmers be part of it. So that also it's easy to monitor our farmers and our intervention. If you see this picture, this is our first batch of graduates in our farm school in 2017, and mostly it's young people in agriculture. Why we're actually targeting a lot of young people in agriculture? I guess somehow we're trying to be successful with that one. More than 58% of our enrollees are youth, and more than also 50+% are women in agriculture. No bias to men in agriculture, but our first investments in women in agriculture is really successful. When you invest in women on the farm, they really invest in the entire community. First, they want to make sure their food at home is healthy. And second, they want to make sure na may mailalako pa silang gulay. They earn money so that they can send their children to school. So it's becoming a successful intervention. For the youth, as I emphasize here in my presentation, I think when we're talking about digitalizing agriculture, UNFAO said that digital innovations are bringing youth back to agriculture. So when the Philippines is going to adopt, a lot of the digitalizing in agriculture in a massive way, mainstreaming it, at least we are ready in all our interventions. We have a lot of young people who are interested on how to make it happen. And most of these young people right now, I receive a call from my office in Marinduque. they said na, "Ma'am, wala na po tayong mabentahan ng gulay." Sabi ko, bakit wala na kayong mabentahan ng gulay? Kasi po, nagpa-garden contest kayo sa mga communities during this pandemic. At lahat po ng graduates natin sa farm school, nagtatanim din ng gulay. So wala na tayong client. Sabi ko, oh, wow, that's a good business, for the farm school because it's successful, not good business for our vegetable production. So we need to innovate. Ano ngayon yung kailangan nila para sila makapagtanim ng gulay? Maybe we can redesign our farm income, or we can go on or pig breeding or poultry or whatever, right? Because it means that the interventions that we're doing is actually impacting household to household, family to family. So how do we do that? I always believe that capacitate farmers to dream for nation building is necessary. Why is that so? I don't want to compare our farmers to the farmers in other countries, but I experienced working in Japan, working in Australia as consultants, and working in other countries. Their farmers are actually very proud that they're farmers. In Japan, they're so proud that they are Japanese farmers. In the Philippines, pag Filipino farmer ka, parang hindi ka proud, nahihiya ka sa ginagawa mo. I always tell our farmers, tatay, nanay, wag po kayong mahiya ha, na farmer kayo. It's because yung buhay nyo ngayon na magsasaka kayo, pag-igihan natin na maging produktibo at kumita kayo ng malaki. Bakit po? Kasi lahat ng friends ko sa Makati, kung saan ako nakatira, na nasa bangko, executives na mga malalaking korporasyon, ang pangarap nila sa buhay ay kung makagraduate, ay maka-retire na sila, bibili sila ng farm at titila sila sa farm. Ito ng buhay mo ngayon. Pag-igihan na lang natin to. Kasi ito yung buhay na gustong-gusto ng mga tao para sa retirement nila. So, palagi naming sinasabi sa farmers na be proud of what you do. But for me also, it's because all the efforts that we're doing, I love this country so much, and it's embedded in our company, that it gears towards nation building. So what we do is we design all our modules, all our curriculums. When you enroll in our farm school, the first 3 days, you are not allowed to plant a seed or cultivate a soil or make a plot. You are first asked to cultivate yourself. What's your dream for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your province, and for the country in general while you are here in the farm school? What you want to achieve, and include the country, please, in your dream. So that's a little bit of our intervention in the B2C business. Now I'm going to the B2B. I'm going now to the B2C business of the company. This pandemic, actually, I think as an agribusiness, the way is always to pivot, right? To reboot, to pivot, and always make things happen. We launched this Move Food initiative. It's called MFI during the pandemic, March 22 to be exact, this year. And we coined this as, this is our mantra, intentionally harvesting goodness. Why is that so? We are so intentional in how we want to put our farmers to be the core and the center of our work. And we actually are going to launch our Move Food Grocery. It's an online marketplace because right now we've been working with a lot of farmers. So just to give you our impact measure, we are always measuring our impact because they said you cannot manage what you cannot measure, right? So we're trying to measure our impact so that we can always design interventions. It may be business or it may be educational component and capacity building for our farmers. So as far as we've been doing the work for the last 5 months, we're so glad we actually saved and delivered 177,330 kilograms of goods from the farmers that we work with. So far on our numbers and on our list, we work with more than 20,000 farmers already. And, we delivered goods to more than 70,000 families in Metro Manila during this pandemic. And what's beautiful here, we also do donate to frontliners. So we serve food to 4,594 frontliners. These are doctors, nurses, security guards, and hospital personnel that we have been feeding for the last months. Another intervention that we've been doing is how to address zero waste. Philippines pre-COVID, we have a zero waste problem of 35%, and I guess after this, during this COVID pandemic, a lot more. But kudos really to Secretary William Dar. I think if without the Kadiwa Ani at Kita, which we are also a partner, intervention, more produce of farmers will just go to waste. We launched the Agria Rescue Kitchen. The Agria Rescue Kitchen is actually processing goods from the farmers' produce. So examples in this picture, this tomatoes and this broccolis. We made pomodoro sauces and also broccoli soup, and it became a bestseller. So we saved tons and tons of tomatoes from Cordillera and Nueva Vizcaya because of this work. We also process some foods. We make jams out of mangoes because it was mango season from April to June. And everything that we can process, the chili from Tarlac, tons and tons of red chili from Tarlac are looking for ways to sell. So what we did, we made a chili sauce and it became a hit, in the market. And this Agria Rescue Kitchen is actually addressing those ugly vegetables. Hugot, no? Bigyan naman natin ng chance yung mga hindi napipili ng mga customers. Thus ugly vegetables and overproduce of farmers are converted into value-adding products. I want to share this because this is actually one of the easy interventions that we can do on the farmer level. The wives or children of the farmers can be involved in this food processing. Good news is we are releasing a webinar series on food processing for free. It will come on November from Agria Rescue Kitchen. So I'm so proud that this Agria Rescue Kitchen won a $10,000 award from Food Solidarity Fund of Social Gastronomy Movement of the World by the United Nations. So we won that all over the world. And another one is a lot of people right now are asking me, Cherry, can you teach me how to plant, where we can access seeds? This is actually in support to the DA Plant and urban farming. We also made business out of that. I think as an agribusiness person, being an example in this talk, we always need to innovate. We always need to think something out of the box. Or sometimes it should not be out of the box. It's just existing. Landian lang natin at artihan, So, grow kits. Pwede ka lang naman magbenta ng buto at kahit ano. But us, we made it sexier and glamorizing agriculture. The fanigang. For all the sinigang vegetables and pinakbet, we name it ang pinakabet mo. Superbs, flower power, leafy, la vida loca, for leafy veggies and salad greens. Right now, we have more than 2,000 grow kits orders in the pipeline, and our farmer partners in Lucban, Laguna are trying their best to actually support to make this happen. And the last few slides will be a little bit of sharing with you how do we reset our economy. I read this article in IMF, International Monetary Fund, why sustainable food systems are needed in post-COVID world. It means globally there's a mainstream discussion on agriculture, on food systems, on farmers, And the economic reset that they said is transforming our food systems because 2020 will be a year of reckoning for the world's food systems. And I hope in the Philippines, we need to make this happen. So we need to focus on resilient food supply chains, healthy diets. Even in the Agria Rescue Kitchen, we focus on our markets, the healthy diet kind of a niche market that we cater. Regenerative farming, taking care of our environment, conservation and innovation. Conservation of our environment is necessary, and innovation and products. Innovation can massively be done with digitalization. So farmers, making farmers the center and core of change. Let's invest in our farmers. I'm so happy with the programs of the Department of Agriculture. How I wish Secretary William Dar, when I was young, I was a beneficiary of Maya, the mentoring and attracting youth in agribusiness. Because I remember I was 15 years old growing up in Negros Occidental. I couldn't enter a conference in agriculture because I wasn't a hashindero or a sabungero. So, and then babae pa ako, and I'm super bata. What I did every time I like to attend a conference, I would look for the older person in the room and with a lunchbox. And I always approach that old person. Tito, pwede mo ba akong isama makasali sa conference? Ako na lang tagadala ng lunchbox mo or medicine box. Sabihin mo, apo mo ako na kailangan taga-remind na mag-take ka na ng medicine. So that, because I really want to join the conference in agriculture. So right now, thank you Manila Times for giving me a seat as a speaker before I was begging to even enter conference. So food systems are at the crossroads of human, animal, economic, and environmental health. So I guess in all our interventions, I love the framework that the Secretary said. Actually, all of this are included. Last slide. This is the most essential business. Hope everyone who are listening, feeding people. Right now, Philippine population is, in 2020, we have 109,581,078 people to feed. I'm always telling everyone who are into agriculture or who wants to go into agriculture, every person that is giving birth in this world, and if that person will live until 75, feeding that person in the next 75 years is the most sustainable business, feeding that 3 times a day. So thank you so much. Most things except agriculture can wait. Maraming salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Sherry. I forgot to mention that Ma'am Sherry used to be with the Ayala Group, and she actually designed the gardens of the Ayala malls, but she decided to, be a pro-farmer person. So she farming really gained a lot when she gave up her corporate job with Ayala. And
Thank you.
yes, okay. Before we go to our next speaker, let me just thank our co-presenter, San Miguel Corporation, our sponsors, Planters Products Incorporated, Seedworks Philippines, our special partner, NutriAsia, and our organization partners, the Financial Executives Association of the Philippines, the Management Association of the Philippines, and our media partner, the Manila Times TV. Now, to our last speaker, he happens to be the youngest of all. He's only 30 years old, and he's the founder and chief executive officer of iFarms. He claims to have done back-breaking work in the farm, and he used to deliver to the local markets in Bukidnon and Cagayan de Oro. And I even read that he once drove a delivery truck. And I also learned that this guy was a former rank model, based on our research. So the loss of showbiz is actually the huge gain of agriculture. So let me welcome Mr. Jairus Ferrer.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hi, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, hi, good morning.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Maayong udto sa inyong tanan. It's lunchtime and I'd like to keep my presentation very short and sweet. Thank you for the kind introduction, Sir Conrad. Again, my name is Jai Ferrer and I'm the founder of iFarms Inc. The introduction actually was held short, but really I grew up in Mindanao, started working early at the age of 17 in a farm school in Bukidnon. And I ended up understanding from the production side, and instead of going to college, I went to a farm school and ended up working there and stayed there for 5 years. And having that base of an understanding and moving to Metro Manila at the age of 21 and understanding how things are marketed, how to present yourself well, and all of these things. And then later on, understanding how the value chain works in the industry, from bringing market produce from Mindanao to different areas in the Philippines, especially the urban areas. Most of my experiences and frustrations I have put into this solution that I'm about to present. So my presentation will be short and sweet, but it will really be a use case of how to marry both agriculture and technology. So iFarms Incorporated, let me give you a background. Next slide, please. Okay, iFarms Incorporated was duly registered as a corporation in 2015, and we were able to build a tight organization, a lean organization that is focused on this objective to marry digitalization and agriculture. But the question is, how do you put these two different age-old industry, and how do you marry it into this new way of doing things? So it's really adapting to the times. And let me say, no, the fundamentals of agriculture is still very, very important. However, we need to gain the wisdom of old and get the aggressiveness of the young and the innovativeness of the young and put it together. So the foundation of this is still very fundamental of what the basic agricultural principles are. It's just that we are integrating things to make it a little bit more efficient, and maybe, just maybe, it can be effective. So this is our team. We have a core team, and we also have a tech team. We also developed a legal team to be able to understand how to put things in proper perspective when it comes to business arrangements. Again, no, we are a startup. So next slide, please. The philosophy of our company is very, very simple. It's to fill the earth and make it productive. And we really want to dignify agriculture as a noble and worthy profession. And our heart is to really see young Filipinos go back to the agricultural path and choose it as a way to prosperity. And we really believe this with all our heart, that the agriculture industry, especially during this pandemic, it will be the restart of the economy. And I hope my presentation today will encourage you to look at things from a different perspective and maybe approach things in a better way, but at the same time apply the same fundamental principles. Next slide.
Hello. Finish?
All right. So
Finish ka lang.
what we have been doing for the past
Favorite loper.
so I registered
Oh.
the company in 2015, and then from 2015 to 2018, to 2017 rather, I took a personal initiative to really understand how do you assemble a team, how do you create an organization, and from 2018, I went full time, and as we were developing the organization, we were going around different parts of the country, and the network that I've built over time since I was a teenager, we started to tap these networks. And the understanding here is, how do you solve problems using user-centered design? The heart of technology actually is intuition, and it's actually behavioral science, right? So we started to understand what ails different parts of the value chain and how do we put all of these things together. So we put a scientific approach on behavioral design and translated that into a technological platform. So everything that we have and what we are using now is internally developed. Proudly, young Filipinos develop these things with us, with our company. Next slide. So during our objective and research phase, we simplified the problems into three things, and it was already mentioned earlier and highlighted by the previous speakers. But let me re-emphasize this again. It's really mismatch from production and market, and because of this, that's the reason why we have a lot of wastage when it comes to the harvest, when sabay-sabay sila nag-harvest. The second problem also is high produce wasted because of bad handling practices. So, and the third problem that we've identified is really the manual. Things are very manual still. So manual purchase practices. No? So inaccurate and incomplete manual ordering and data, which is a very, very big inconvenience. Why? The problem today is we will harvest first and then saka kami maghahanap ng market. With the advent of technology, you can actually say, okay, before it's even harvested, dapat may-ari na niyan. And tama si Secretary Dar, and I really, really support all of his programs where he said, Huwag ka magtanim kung walang market. Alamin mo muna ano yung kailangan ng market. So the heart of the platform is actually sold before harvest, right? So next slide. So we've summarized it into two simplified questions. This is what we have, sabi ng producer, and sabi ng market or buyers and people who need food, this is what we need, where can I get it? Everything that we are doing is to solve these two questions. Now, the next question is, how did the pandemic push UMA to operate? So allow me to present two use cases of what we have developed and how it has been applied. First is the digital wholesale system at the beginning of the lockdown during March. We were called in by a group and they said, Jai, are you already operating? Sabi ko, it's still very, very rough, but we can already begin and start using our system. So next slide. This is what happened during the start of the COVID lockdown in March. And this is our alpha version, which is already available online in www.uma.ph. That's uma.ph. Why did we develop UMA? UMA actually stands for, in various dialects across the country, it actually stands for or means farm or bukid. So we wanted to develop a brand and system that will actually uplift and dignify Philippine agricultural produce, right? So our heart is to make this an international brand, but it has to be hyper localized, meaning people and the Filipinos would support the objective and the philosophy of UMA, which is quality Philippine produce. Next slide. So this is our MVP version. It's a very basic buying system, but at the same time, wholesale buyers come to this platform, and we've given them the proper information and the proper process flow for them to make it an easy purchase. So the question is, how do you now merge the technological platform, and how do you now translate that into an operational system? And how do you simplify it along the way? Next slide. So whatever happens here in the platform is translated immediately in the post-harvest service center. If you notice, we're not just digital platform, we're actually supply chain solutions integrated with our platform. Now we have implemented great systems. Why? Because again, the earlier problem that I said of proper food handling. And because of precise data that we have generated through our system, we actually, the producers or the growers or the farmers get to benefit before they even harvest their products. And next slide. Because of proper food handling systems, the yield per kilo increases as it gets is minimized rather. The yield per kilo damage is minimized because of application of proper handling systems. Right? So, kung babiyahe ang products mo for 9 hours, pagdating niya dito sa center or sa buyer, the damage is close to no damage. Meron pa rin yan kasi syempre agricultural products are living organisms. But the point is, it has minimal damage. But the way we are allowing us to move this forward is because of we are data-driven agriculture supply chain systems. Next. So because of that, the quality of produce to serve our distributors or our buyers is of tip-top quality, right? So next. And because of that, it's easier for the buyers or the community or the ecosystem to fulfill orders to make it faster. So this happened during the pandemic, and we were able to move tons of produce week on week because of precise data. And the turnover is much faster and quicker because of proper handling systems. And mas na-manage natin yung mga tao and yung fulfillment activities. So we make it convenient for buyers from ordering to drop-off fulfillment. We do our best so clients can do what they can do best. Next. So during the lockdown, we activated multiple truckers also in our ecosystem, making it efficient for them. So I wasn't really able to experience being isolated because during the start of the lockdown, talagang tuloy-tuloy po tayo. to ensure of the objective of Secretary William Dar to make sure that food security and food access is there. Now, concept number two, proof of concept number two is actually how are we creating and enabling jobs to our system. And I'd like to show to you a campaign that we just started this month, which is the Satsuma Mandarin campaign. The reason for this is given the online systems are very cluttered now with so much information, the power of one or the power of focus is very, very powerful. So we were able to implement this to really educate the market of what this product is. Apparently, not a lot of people know about this product. However, because of precise marketing, clear messaging, and clear visuals, the market was able to adapt. And because of our system, it makes it easier for them to access these produce at a timely manner. Next slide. Oh, so our supply chain system is data-driven. So data-driven supply chain, sorry for the misspelling there. So farms receive precise data of market needs. So yung sinasabi ni Secretary William Dar na dapat i-serve nyo yung market na meron na talaga. So because of our system, we're able to predict what the market precisely needs at a certain point in time. Next is the goods arrive in hub in fresh condition. No? So because of good handling practices, and we were able to really adapt into a GAP program, we really studied this by heart. No, it allows us to simplify our operations, therefore increasing the profitability margins for both the producers and making it reasonably priced for the market. So produce is processed for distribution. I have to emphasize that last weekend we were able to move 1.5 tons of fresh Satsuma Mandarin for this harvest round. So ang turnover is very, very quick because of precise data. Now, since the start of March, we were able to really increase the effectivity and the distribution and allowed us to create jobs during this month, just specifically for this campaign. And mind you, this is only coming from one farmer family. Okay, so imagine the impact if we're able to apply such systems in multiple areas. So I'd like to really encourage you, if you see this as a possible business model, reach out to us. We're more than willing to share what we have and multiply this in different parts of the country. Now, next slide. Last slide, statistics for just this month. No, one campaign. Imagine one campaign, focused, precise data, proper supply chain systems. 35 to 40 jobs created within our ecosystem. We moved 6.5 tons in 3.5 weeks. And then areas reached within Metro Manila is around 10. Total damage, 3% because of putting everything together, therefore minimizing wastage. So that is the end of my presentation, and I hope we are realizing the digitalization of agriculture in the country. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Jairus. That's very impressive considering that I think the average loss would range something between 10 to 25%, and achieving a 3% loss, that's very impressive. So I would like to engage all the speakers now because we will be going to the question and answer, and I believe Mr. Adriano has questions first addressed to the Agriculture Secretary.
I will give way to the questions being raised by the followers of this meeting. The first question that is asked to the Secretary is this, from one of our followers. Is, what percentage, Mr. Secretary, or how much of the DA's current budget and the 2021 budget is directly or indirectly allotted to digitalization? And the second question also relates to that, is that how can we propagate digitalization among our farmers given the relative lack of access to digital technology? Thank you. Mr. Secretary?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Min. Thank you, Conrad. You know, we in 2020, we brought in one of the best experts in IT. As you know, nandyan na yung IT dito sa DA for almost 30 years na, pero hindi pa masyado maganda yung data management. Dito, kung sino yung nakaupo at napalitan after 2 years, you start all over again. So I don't want that thing to continue. Now we are redesigning the whole data management system for the Department of Agriculture. And this year we are allocating, actually on top of the regular budget for ICTS, we are allocating additionally 300 million pesos to start. And part of that would be to continue cleansing the Farmers Registry, RSBSA. And for next year's budget, we'll see to it that we raise this budget of 300 million to complete RSBSA. We should have another 1 billion. And for the other apps to be properly piloted and properly understood and institutionalized. So increasingly over the period, we will give digital agriculture a huge budget. And I would like to leave this as a legacy when I leave agriculture again this time around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Conrad, do you have questions to the Secretary?
Yes, I'd like to know, meron pa bang resistance among farmers to adapt to digitalization, considering that we are coming from the Carabao and plow era of agriculture?
Well, every effort is possible to narrow that gap between 1.0 agriculture and 4.0 digital agriculture. So, every means possible. Like itong ginagawa nila Cherry, sila Dennis, sila Jai. We have to bring these approaches to make it possible na mas mabilis yung narrowing the gap of agriculture 1.0 to the 4.0 agriculture that we would like to have. So even within the DA family now, it needs a lot of enhancing this process. Kasi nga, yung kultura dito dati ay everyone hiding the data. No one building up the data longitudinally. You need to build up historical data every year, year in, year out. When I was with ICRISAT, that's one program that for the last 40 years na ng ICRISAT, mayroon longitudinal data. And that is giving us a more informed decision-making process once you have the best of data available. So kami ay ano yung tawag natin, gagawin lahat at baliw na baliw kami sa digital agriculture.
Okay, thank you very much.
Last question for the Secretary.
Okay.
Mr. Secretary, we know that agribusiness will really flourish if we have some form of farm consolidation. And I'm happy that one of your trusts is farm consolidation, because obviously you need the volume, the quality, and the timeliness of the supply to be given to the buyers or the market. So how are we faring with the farm consolidation trust? How are we progressing now with the farm consolidation trust of the department? Thank you.
You know, this is not a new concept, but it has not been practiced in a big way. You know, that we would like to do today and in the future. We have to learn lessons from existing consolidation arrangements or clustering arrangements so that we build from there. So we have now the guidelines in place Like in rice, a minimum of 100 hectares. The same is true for corn. And that's the minimum hectarage to have economies of scale. And for other commodities like vegetables, 50 hectares, so that the interventions of government will be much more, efficient and effective. If we have, for example, machineries, we will not give it to individual farmers, but now will be given to this cluster of, say, 100 farmers in a rice area. And all the common service facility will now support the mechanization requirements of this group. So ganun po mangyayari. At the same time, let me highlight, the farmers co-ops will now be the mechanism with which we can now encourage the private sector to go into business and partnering with the farmers cooperatives. You know, there is a built-in advantage if you have economies of scale. As you said, there is volume, there is quality, because the private sector brings the management know-how, the technology, the capital even. So that's one major strategy that we will now use in our 2021 programs. Lahat na yun, all programs of the DA will use farm clustering, farm consolidation as the strategy. And much of the ayuda, the subsidies, the inputs that we give, the machineries that we give will now be through the farmer cooperatives.
Okay, yes,
Thank you.
sir. Yeah, I think we have more questions for you, but let me filter out that. In the meantime, I have a question for the other three panelists. First, we go to Cherry. I know very well that Agria also deals with indigenous peoples and the poorest of the poor. Now, let me ask you, what is the level of receptiveness towards technologization and digitization of these communities? Is there much resistance, or are they becoming open to such things like technologization?
Thank you so much for that wonderful question. For the rural communities, I guess, na indigents, there's interest, because it's something that if you actually bring them like a cell phone or a new like smart app about agriculture in their phone, they're so excited. However, though, the hesitation is coming from they don't have a device and they don't have access to internet. So the hesitation is coming from what they lack. It's not the hesitation coming also from the behavior. Kasi what I experience every time we go to the farming communities and we will show them the videos that later on po in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years, this is what we're going to do. And then your children will help you, for example, fill out these forms and submit as data. They're so excited. Palagi na, ma'am, sa wakas, may ganyan na. Ay, ma'am, sa wakas, alam na namin yung presyo sa market. Hindi na kami matataga ng ibang namimili sa amin. But, there's an interest and there's excitement. But hopefully, infrastructure should be set in place and even the provision of device must be considered.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Cherry. That's a very, very good answer. Now, my next question is directed kay Mr. Dennis muna. Then, Jai, I have a question for you. After Dennis answers. I know very well that the PISA-BE has chapters in state colleges and universities. Can you tell me how receptive are college students in state colleges and universities in taking up agriculture-related courses? Because what I've heard before is many rural-based youth would rather work in the urban areas.
So, sir, thank you for the question. Actually, sir, the enrollees of the Philippine Society of Agriculture and Biosystems Engineer, the academe are now increasing. Siguro ito na yung nakikita nila na with the pandemic situation ng Pilipinas, kailangan natin i-venture ang ating mga sarili into farming kasi kahit may pera ka, kung wala ka naman mabili, wala rin silbi yung ating pera. Another thing is, yung sinasabi nating prosperous farmer and fisher folks, ito ho yung ating outcome in na modernized agriculture. Pero paano natin masabi na prosperous ang ating farmer o fisher folk kung konti lang naman ang kanilang kita? And in order to them to become prosperous, kailangan mataas ang kanilang ani para tatas naman ang kanilang kita. So ito yung nakikita ng ating mga youth ngayon sa ating mga states and colleges all over the country na kailangan pataasin ang ating kita. Although sabihin natin na nasa digital era na tayo at nandiyan na rin yung mga machine for machineries, pero properly to utilize these two things ay ito yun ho yung challenge sa aming mga ABEs. Nandiyan nga sila pero hindi naman natin kaya i-maximize ang kanilang gamit, so we cannot i-implement o kaya i-venture ito sa ating farming. So there's a need talaga na paramihin ang ating mga ABE students and professionals para itong digital era natin kasama ng ating mga farm organizations ay mapagsama at maiparating sa ating mga magsasaka at maisda. And ngayon nga ang Department of Agriculture is now venturing solar powered irrigation system at may mga technology na rin na yung ating controller ay nandun na sa ating cellphone sa application para hindi ho natin nasasayang ang ating mga tubig sa pag tayo ay ginagamit tayo nagpapatubig sa ating sakahan. Imagine mo sir pagka ang source ng solar natin ay nasa irrigation. Pagka hindi natin ito na-control ng tama, nasasayang lang ho ang ating tubig. So sabihin na natin ng isang magsasaka ay meron siyang Android cellphone at na-install yung application, kahit nandun siya sa medyo malayong lugar at alam na niya, matatantya na niya ang volume ng kanyang patubig, ay pwede na niyang i-control sa kanyang cellphone. Another thing, para maging prosperous po ang ating farmer ay yung transport po. Maganda ho na yung ating mga transport reaper van ay may sensor na rin para i-regulate yung temperature na kailangan ng ating mga commodity para yung produce po ng farmer ay makarating ho sa table ng bawat pamilya na safe at saka fresh pa rin po.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very interesting answers. Now, yes, sir.
I would just like, kasi there's a question here about, there's an observation that the digitalization discussed are on the agricultural supply chain, marketing, processing.
Okay.
But the question here to the secretary is that, is there an effort to digitalize production? Because I know that in the Department of Agriculture, they have this PRISM, they have this climate change kind of thing, and lately they have this satellite program with satellite project with a Swiss-based company called Sature. Mr. Secretary, can you share some of the information about these three satellite-based projects?
Bago yung satellite technology, ay gusto kong i-highlight yung kagaya ng ginagawa ni Cherry at si Jai. You know, e-commerce is now becoming a major strategy in this new normal. So we have established e-Kadiwa platform. At ang dami ng nakijoin na agribusiness people and even the movers, yung mga logistics. So this is a major effort to really now practice e-commerce in the country. Na-accelerate yung e-commerce as a result of COVID. Ito yung positive development as impacted too by COVID-19. And that will be so in the future. So pagigihan natin palagi, there should be self-regulation on the part of those selling para only quality will be sold. Lately, mayroon kanina, reports about those selling pork na yung contaminated with ASF, mga ganon. So hindi dapat mangyari. And that's why I am calling self-regulation in e-platforms, e-commerce like this. And so we are creating demand, and e-Kadiwa uh, is a platform to enhance spending from the side of the consuming public. Now, yung sinabi ni Dr. Min, we have signed an agreement through the planters products with Satsure of Switzerland for the use of the technology to predict give us data of damages as a result of natural disasters. Like when there is drought or when there is flooding, right away, mayroon ng data na ibibigay at yun na ang basehan doon sa pagbayad ng PICC sa mga indemnification. Hindi na kagaya dati, it will take time. Eh kung 5 araw yung rainy season mo at katatapos ng bagyo, you cannot penetrate those flooded areas. So this is a very efficient way to indemnify those farmers that have been affected by natural calamities. So that's the importance of digital agriculture, tapping the power of drones, satellites. Drones will be more and more. And we'll see to it starting next year. Siguro mag-complete tayo ng isang center na pwede natin both DA Center and SUCs na yung precision agriculture will be practiced, demonstrated, upscaled in a big way para mayroon educational, training, and learning center. And that will be accelerating the growth of digital farming.
Okay. Sir, thank you very much. Now, we are actually nag-extend na tayo. So, I think we will have a few more questions. And my question right now is addressed towards Jairus. How extensive is the reach of UMA towards yung tinatawag na institutional buyers like SM? And do you see the day that you would become a major player in supplying yung mga big chains like SM, Robinsons, and major supermarkets?
I'll be very, very upfront, sir. We have survived as a startup company with very menial resources.
Okay.
We have done all of these things based on very limited resources. However, we believe in creativity and excellence in every detail. Therefore, maximizing whatever we have and making it this effective. There's always this notion where if you want to be big, you supply the big boys, right? But you have to understand, majority of the buyers are on the mid scale and on the mass scale, right? And I think because of the pandemic, it has shifted the behavior of people. Even now, people are afraid to go to supermarkets. Tama po ba? And not just because, let me just say this, no, not just because you supply these big institutional clients, it becomes profitable. I'm very sorry to say that, but that is the reality of things. So therefore, the behavior of the supply chain is simplified. To go back to your question earlier, sabi niyo po na what are we doing to be able to provide solutions to the production area? Our company, our startup company, is about to launch our UMA Grower. UMA Grower app actually has integrated solutions to allow the grower to say what's the upcoming harvest for a certain period. Now, because of precise data and sinasabi nga ni Secretary that these things are very applicable, I think we have to go back to the fundamental of things where we need to develop people, right? It's going to be people who will be using these systems. So even though we talk about all of these technologies and all of that, I think what we need to go back to is how do we develop social structures that is beneficial to everyone? How do we structure the cooperative system in adapting into it? How do we provide the ecosystem of providing the tools and the needed services for an independent farmer to be part of this digital economy? I think we need to get out of the frame of mind that things should be fragmented, but there's actually a very, very good opportunity now to have collaborative efforts, but learning how to structure a company or a cooperative properly. But at the same time, really, sir, for me, digital agriculture is really developing people and how they digest the data. So I can get very technical, but I think really, sir, going back to where we see our company moving forward, to be honest, we don't even know what's going to happen in the next 15 days. so so we're really just adapting as things move forward. But in reality, sir, agriculture will survive because it's a fundamental a necessity. But at the same time, sir, I really think the big institution should also look into how to empower local communities, villages, condominiums, even the rural areas, the barangays, the municipalities, because I really believe it's time to decongest the cities. Okay, it's really time to develop the rural areas for economic development. And economic development doesn't necessarily mean need to be the high techness of things and all of that. It's really a healthy exchange of supply and demand locally. And the beauty about digital technology with agriculture is you can actually be hyper local using the same technology, right? So for example, Miss Cherry's island economy, if you integrate something that we have, it's very, very applicable, right? So it's all of these things put together, sir, with the advent of technology, it's boundless, right? But where do we see ourselves in 5 years, sir? I'd rather put ourselves, where do we see ourselves next month? Next month, because it's really adapting to these things, especially with this pandemic. But on a serious note, sir, last point, on a serious note, I really think it's time that people look at this from a fresh perspective, that agriculture should actually be a prosperous industry, right? And I think it's time to adapt new ways of thinking, new ways of adapting approaches, and really even the way we do business. Tama si Secretary that we need to show the proper data. You know, if you look at our platform, we tell you where the produce comes from. That's unprecedented because people want to hide their suppliers. Diba? With the digital economy, my gosh, is it transparent, right? So now the question is, who will provide these in an efficient manner? Who will provide the ecosystem? So I'm very, very excited of what's going to happen in the next few months, the next years. And I'm hoping UMA will be part of this transformation for the country.
Okay. Okay. Now we are already extended so much, but this is still getting to be very, very interesting. So I'd like to ask one more question to Ma'am Cherry. Ano? May nagtatanong rito, are you still open to more partners and how can they partner with you? Yun lang, ano? Kasi nagtatanong yata, they are producers and can they just go to your website, something like that?
Yes, for sure. If you're a producer, please contact us. Actually, I'm so happy, you know, Jai and I we're trying to work and help each other together. Same with other online platforms. So are there outside. You know, they've been like the Agri has been a backbone to a lot of online platforms, and also to producers. Every week, I see a list of farmer co-ops knocking our doors and applying to be part of Agria. So later on, one of these days, we will launch the cooperative onboarding platform in Agria. It can be in our website, or mostly we recruit upon Facebook because most of the groups have Facebook groups. So it's very necessary. And message me also personally. If you're a farmer, I'll never say no, and I will not close my eyes. So I'm happy to help.
Yeah. Meron pa nga may nag-message dito pati LGU eh. So siguro baka dadagsain ka mamaya sa Facebook mo. So
for LGUs po, yeah. Sir Peter, for LGUs po, actually we have a consultancy arm in Agria. During this pandemic, we receive a lot of clients in our consultancy arm.
Okay.
We have full of experts doing that. What we do usually with our clients, you know, we work with LGUs. As well as private landowners. So we do consultancy. If you're an LGU, most of our projects, for example, in Siargao, we designed the food security master plan of Siargao in the next 5 years, and also help on how the local leaders will have intervention to their farmers. If you're a private individual, usually if you want to sign up with Agrea, we strictly follow the ESG, environmental, social, good governance. So most of the clients applying to us for environment, what kind of practices you want to do in your land. We are not into cutting of trees. So if you want to cut your trees to farm, you cannot be our client. Second one, social. If you want to approach Agrea because you want to farm kasi may kick out ka ng mga caretakers mo or mga nag-squat sa lupa mo, we are not the right person to approach because karma is real. We're not here to uproot people. We're here to build people. So if you have clear plans to include your caretakers as part of the growers or farmers to capacitate, we're there for you. Third one is good governance. If you come to us, have clear land titles. We don't want to deal with client that the land titles is still named under their grandfather who died, and the land titles are not transferred clearly. I dealt so much with that, and it's a waste of time. And lastly, after your land title, please review your land tax. I don't want land bank to run after me to pay your land taxes that wasn't paid in 1975. So hopefully I made myself clear, and that's a very strict intervention you want to do on developing your land, but it's also for your good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have one more question for Sir Dennis and for Sir Jai before we wrap this up. Let's go to Sir Dennis muna. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I learned that there are initiatives by agricultural and biosystems engineers in other ASEAN countries. Meron na silang institution to push the fourth industrial revolution technologies. Yeah, I even heard there's even an institution in India to do that. Do we need to do the same here in the Philippines to put up that type of institution to push yung tinatawag na fourth industrial revolution technologies, which I believe are very familiar to the agricultural and biosystems engineers?
Sir, tingin ko hindi na kailangan for the Philippines to establish such just dahil nandito na po yung Department of Agriculture who undertake the agricultural sectors. Nandan din yung mga sangay niya in research, in trainings na kailangan para ma-enhance ang ating agricultural sectors. And kung napansin mo yung aking presentation kanina, nandun yung slide na ang keynote speaker namin sa isang convention ay si Secretary there who talk about the 4.0 industry. So nandiyan na rin ho ang ating guy who will take charge of the 4.0 industry in agriculture. So I think enhance na lang po natin. Tingin ko ang kailangan natin ay mga professional like agriculture and biosystems engineer for the rural areas. Sabi nga ni Secretary kanina, to narrow the gap from 1.0 to 4.0, sa tingin ko is to bring agriculture and biosystems engineers in the rural area to help our farmers, explain to them what is the importance of the digitalization, industrialization, with respect to agriculture. So yun po, sir, ang ating.
Thank you very much. Ngayon, my last question is addressed to Jai. Okay, it's quite a personal or even a controversial question. To succeed in farming, do you still need to go to college or do you have to go to, let's say, a farming school and explore digitalization? I mean, from your own point of view.
Yeah, actually, how do I answer? From a personal point of view, sir, when I was at that point of deciding of what to take for college, no one really knows what they want to do.
Okay.
That's from my perspective. However, you have to understand, college does not mean education and college is different, right? Education, being educated is your personal choice, right? With the advent of technology, whatever you think of, you can Google, you can learn about it. And I learned this, sir, when I was in that farm school in Bukidnon. Buy one book and apply what that principle is. And every month you read one book. So you just apply that thing, right? So you develop yourself time and time again, no? But I also believe, sir, of the college education should actually also be maybe updated the way it's being approached now, right? Instead of making it, because everyone has different learning cycles, right? Ako, the way I learn is I do it first, and then I experience the pain and the frustration, and then I do something about it, right? So that's just me, right? What was your follow-up question, sir?
Uh, so yun nga, so I think that basically answers my question.
Okay.
In fact, you answer it adequately, ano? And you know what? If we can discuss a lot about, you know, what all of you know, it will take siguro up to 5 p.m. today. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time, but I would like to thank all of you, especially as the secretary, for giving so much time to this forum, because we hanggang dapat hanggang 12 lang tayo, but you know what, it got very, very, very interesting, and I hope that next time kung may part 2 man, we can share more,
Yeah.
So maraming salamat sa inyo, Ma'am Agriculture Secretary William Dar, Roberto Amores, PISABE President Dennis Taktak, UN Ambassadress Cherry Atiliano, and UMA President and co-founder and agripreneur Jairus Ferrer. Maraming salamat sa inyo for joining us, and I hope this won't be the last we will be seeing each other. And Mr. Roberto Amores, we'd like to get a final message from you, before we close out.
Yeah. Anyway, salamat sa imbitasyon ninyo. I'm not only, when I was presenting earlier, I'm not only an advocate for agribusiness. No, I'm also a business practitioner. I was listening intently to Secretary Dar and to Cherry and our UMA, very enterprising UMA friend. Understanding consolidation and understanding all those technology in improving agriculture, of course, expanding it to the horizons in the domestic front. I also espouse more on doing agriculture in terms of expanding your operations up to the level outside your domestic front, because export also is one way of increasing the value of our produce, like for instance, just quickly, as far as consolidation and clustering, we have in Tarlac a medium-sized cluster for fresh vegetables like okra. The aggregate area that we planted in a period of 6 months is about 400 hectares. So, which is devoted for our export market for within the ASEAN region. So it is also but proper that our friends looking at their domestic operations as far as expanding productions using precision agriculture with the food safety standards, tignan din natin yung pag-expand natin to give more value to the agriculture sector by having domestic values and also moving outside, expanding to exports. Maraming salamat po and looking forward to see you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We would like to get the final message of our Agriculture Secretary, William Dar. Yes, sir. We would like to have your closing message, sir, for this forum.
Very simple, tulong-tulong, sama-sama, so that these new technologies, digital agriculture, will be mainstream, and innovation system be the anchor for moving forward Philippine agriculture towards a market-oriented economy anchored on a value chain system. So we need all the energies of the young and the wisdom of the old farmers. Thank you and good day.
Maraming salamat, sir. And we know you are
Thank you.
very hardworking. Yeah. The file, Ma'am Cherry Atiliano. Where's
Yes.
Ma'am Cherry?
Yes,
Yeah.
po.
Yeah, we would like to have your final message, ma'am.
First, thank you so much for this invitation. Hopefully, this webinar will enlighten more people. Now, we will not just be talking about agriculture, but we need to put our hands, on the ground, get dirty, connected to our land and our soil. Sabi ko nga po yung agrikultura po is the only way for survival. And during this pandemic, that's why, from negative 0.5 to positive 1.6, imagine, it's a living testament that agriculture is the only way to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now we would like to get the closing message of Engineer Dennis Taktak.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, with this, thank you po dito sa pag-invite nyo sa webinar, and I hope na-reach out ho natin yung ating mga other professionals to venture also into agriculture, even though their profession is not really an agriculture, para makatulong tayo sa ating mga kababayan na nangailangan ho ngayon na pagkain, lalo pat mahirap po ang transport ng ating mga pangunahing kailangan sa ating katawan. So I hope that this webinar will still continue, and I hope also that other professions will really venture into agriculture to meet the 4.0 agriculture industry. Thank you po, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jairus Ferreira. Yes.
I'd like to thank you for including us in your presentation in this forum. It's an honor. Really, I have not much to say anymore because there's really so much work to be done. And I'm looking forward to the guidance of Sir Bobby and DA Secretary William Dar. I'm personally, I'm really very hungry for mentorship in this industry. I think that's why sometimes I reach out to Miss Cherry, like, Miss Cherry, how are you? And all of these things, no? And thank you for the opportunity. But in reality, sir, we're just at the very beginning of this transformation. And I think this whole COVID situation allowed all of us in the country, in the whole world, to realize what is important in life. The digitalization, all of these conversations, these are tools. But at the end of the day, it's really human-to-human interaction. How do we help our fellow human beings? How do we develop, how do we address food security on a daily basis, in and out? So I hope our solutions are just a tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to develop, but really, we're really needing the right support from the leading organizations to really support these Filipino innovators, like Miss Cherry and our team. If you meet our team secretary, I think you'll be very, very proud, or a very young team, no? And we would love to have maybe an afternoon with you, and also Sir Bobby Amores and everyone in this forum, no? But really, it's really to encourage one another. So thank you again for the opportunity po.
Maraming salamat, and good day, ano? And I hope this is not the last time we will be exchanging ideas. Maraming salamat ulit sa inyo, Ma'am Cherry,
Thank you.
Sir Roberto, and the rest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Conrad.
Thank you so much po.
Thank you very much. Okay.
noong 1962. Itinatag ang ESO, Standard Fertilizer and Agrichemical Company Incorporated, na naglalayon na maging isa sa mga nangungunang kumpanya ng mga kemikang pang-agrikultura sa Pilipinas. Ang pagmamay-ari nito ay nailipat sa Sugar Producers Cooperative and Marketing Association noong taong 1970 at pinangalan ng Planters Products Incorporated. Alinsunod sa Letter of Instruction bilang 178 na nilagdaan ni dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos. Noong Marso 1974, inilagak ang mga shares of stocks ng PPI sa pangangalaga ng Non-Profit Planters Foundation Incorporated. Ang PFI ay naatasang na ibahagi ang nasabing shares sa mga magsasakang Pilipino. Base sa pagtataya, 25 milyong shares of stocks na naibahagi na sa may higit kumulang 830,000 magsasaka shareholders. Mula noong 1973 hanggang unang bahagi ng dekada 70, ang Planters Products Incorporated ay naging mahalagang katuwang ng ating pamahalaan sa pagpapatupad ng Masagana 99, isang programang may layuning mapataas ang ani ng mga magsasaka mula 30 hanggang 79 na sako bawat ektarya ng palayan. Ito ay isinakatuparan sa pamamagitan ng akses sa teknolohiya sa mga Pilipinong magsasaka, pagpapahiram, probisyon ng abono sa abot-kayang halaga. Ang PPI na nooy may hawak ng 80 hanggang 85% ng lokal na kalakalan ng abono, ang naging katangi-tanging Pilipinong kumpanya na nagbenta ng abono sa mga magsasaka na may diskwento na 40% para sa 600,000 ektarya sa buong kapuluan na naging bahagi ng Masagana 99. Kaugnay dito, ang PPI din ang nagpasimula sa paggamit ng makabagong uri ng abono. Sa kasalukuyan, ang Planters Products Incorporated ay patuloy na walang sawang pagseserbisyo sa ating mga kabalikat na magsasaka. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng paghatid ng kompleto, dekalidad at abot-kayang mga produkto para sa kanilang mga sakahan. Kalakip ang pagbabahagi ng makabago at naaangkop na teknolohiya at suportang teknikal upang kanilang matugunan hindi lamang ang kanilang pangangailangan, bagkus pati ang buong bayan. Ang PPI ay isa sa mga naunang Filipino agrichem company na naging ISO certified. Patunay na world-class ang batayan ng kalidad at galing. Ang kabuang layunin ng PPI ngayon ay palakasin ang kakayahan at kapasidad ng bayaning magsasaka na mapaunlad ang kanilang katayuan hindi lamang sa pagsasaka kundi pati sa kanilang kabuhayan. Ang PPI ay may layuning matustusan hindi lamang ang kasalukuyang pangangailangan ng mga magsasaka at ng ating bansa, kundi paghandaan at payabungin ang kinabukasan. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng pagpapakilala ng mga makabago at epektibong produktong hindi makasasama at mapapangalagaan ang kalikasan. Lahat ng adhikaing ito ay maisa sa katuparan sa pamamagitan ng patuloy na pagtutulungan ng PPI at ng ating mga bayaning magsasaka.
I commend Seedworks Philippines, headed by its president Carlos Saplala and his formidable team for actively advocating modernized technology and smarter ways for cultivating and harvesting high-quality rice. I also congratulate all of you for the successful conduct of Ang Hari sa Ani.
We would also like to thank all the participants of this event. Many farmer finalists achieved yields of more than 10 tons per hectare. Congratulations to the winners from Nueva Ecija and Davao del Norte. Our Anghari sa Ani winners were able to harvest more than 3 times the national average. In behalf of the entire Seedworks team, please accept our warmest congratulations.
Mabuhay ang Seedworks Philippines. Mabuhay ang lahat ng magsasakang Pilipino.